We are now live on Facebook. Here we are. And here I am with Eileen Oliver Free, who has so graciously agreed to let me interview her on the topic of transformation. And so firstly, I'm just going to speak to everybody. I want to welcome you from, wherever you're listening in from. So if you are there listening to us live now, please write in the comments, say hello, say where you're calling in from. Just so you know, Eileen is in New Zealand and I am in Canada. And where are you from? And as Eileen and I go through our conversation, go ahead and write any comments you've got or any questions, because even though we may not be able to see all of your questions right now, we'll go back and answer them. So they will all be addressed. Yes. So Eileen, thank you. Thank you for making this time. And I just, you said something just as we caught up briefly beforehand, just about your kids and stuff like that. So do you want to let people know?
Sure. Well, good morning. Good morning in New Zealand. I'm Irish, so in case you're wondering, and I've got a fly suddenly has decided he likes me. In case you're wondering why I don't sound like a Kiwi, because I'm Irish, but I've been living in New Zealand for 18 years. I'm at home in the sitting room. The sun is streaming in. It's fabulous. The children have been told what I'm doing, and my husband too, but that doesn't mean that will necessarily stop them from forgetting and coming in. So if halfway through you see me suddenly distracted or saying, not right now, then you'll know what that's about. But yeah, other than that, we should be good.
Yeah, wonderful. Now, Eileen, you and I actually go back a wee bit. So yeah, like before the Woman Beat Your Drum program. So
yeah,
we met in New Zealand. So many of you know that I moved back to Canada 3 years ago. And, but before that, for 29 years, I lived in New Zealand. And that's where in 1993, that's where I started my coaching and training business. And I met Eileen, not then, but after that, but it's still been a few years ago, eh?
Yeah, I can't believe you said that this morning, that you're in Canada 3 years. That's mad. That does not feel like 3 years. I was thinking year and a half, maybe two. That's insane.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just tell brief, so people get a sense of just what you do. Do you want to say briefly what you do?
Sure. So at the moment, I joined a company in February last year. So at the moment, I work in sales, strategic sales, for a software company. So yeah, we'll talk a little bit more about that later, I'm sure, in terms of how I got there, and what the next step is for me after this. But that's what I do at the moment.
Okay, so let's delve in, because we're here to talk about transformation. Mm-hmm. And so I'm just going to define what I mean by transformation, because that word now is it's used a lot in many different contexts. And so, just simply looking it up in the dictionary is, so transformation is when something changes form or character, something like that. So when you actually change something from how it was, and it can be like completely different. So it's not even necessarily, sometimes it is just a little step, and sometimes it's just something that completely evolves differently. So that's what we're going to delve into here, and in the Woman Beat Your Drum program as the vehicle for that. So that is something you have participated in that program. And so it's a 3-month program. And now you're in the mastermind program, which is a program for those who complete the 3 months to then continue practicing and deepening the tools in your life. Now, so the first question I want to ask you, though, is to take you right back to the beginning. Before you decided to do the Woman Beat Your Drum program, like, there's so many programs out there. What was it that actually made you choose this one?
So I think the core thing for me, and I've taken some notes, so if I look down, it's not because I'm avoiding the question, I'm just checking my notes. I guess my journey was slightly different because I'd known you before. So to your point, I think the journey began before the Woman Beat Your Drum program, because I was looking for somebody to help guide me. I knew that it wasn't about counseling. I'd done counseling before. I knew that it was about purpose, and it was about a lot of other things that I couldn't necessarily articulate. And so that's when I initially found you and kind of had you as a mentor. And then got involved in your journey. And really, once then you moved to Canada and developed the program, you know, what's really interesting, and I was thinking about it a lot in preparation for today, is that when you first started talking to me about the program, I was like, yeah, that's great. That's great. That's great for everybody else, not for me. That's great for everybody else, not for me. It's fantastic for everybody else, but not for me. And not because I didn't think I need it, but because I was afraid that, oh, what if I'm so used to all this fear? I'm so used to all these limiting beliefs. They're actually like my comfy blanket. They keep me paralyzed. They keep me playing small. I didn't consciously notice. But oh, if you change that, what happens then? You know, do I have to confront some of this? Do I have to live bigger? Do I have to realize who I am? So it probably took you a little bit of patience and persuading. And then I embarked on the program.
So I just want to point that out for people, which is, like, as you can see, Eileen is a very confident and, relaxed, charismatic, natural kind of woman. And so so coming back to you, Eileen, you don't actually see that. You didn't actually demonstrate on the outside that, oh, that fear and all that. It was like, oh, that's a really great program, but it's not for me. And we can easily justify that and even believe our own kind of sugarcoating ourself, right?
Oh, and I work in sales, so I can sell to myself very well. I have all the reasons, the features, the benefits, the whys, the why nots.
Yeah. So
yeah.
what was it? What was it then that kind of opened you up to see that maybe it was fear holding you back?
You. I would say to anybody who doesn't know Leanne, she just looks so sweet and she's so wonderful, and you could be fooled into thinking that she's a soft touch. She's not. So she's your biggest advocate and cheerleader. So she's not going to let you away with not being your best self. And so there was a combination of there was absolutely no pressure from you, Leanne, at all. There never has been. There was, and always has been, a passion for wanting me to see what you see of myself. And isn't that what love is really about? You know, when you look at somebody else and you go, oh, I wish they could see how amazing they are. And this is this beautiful external shell. What's going on inside? And the biggest thing for me was your belief, not only in me, but in that there was so much more to me, and that you wanted me to meet myself. I mean, that's a really powerful thing. And there also came a point too, it's just you run out of road of excuses. And I suddenly thought, hang on a second, all of these things have actually been ruling my life and ruling my thoughts for so long. Isn't it time to put those burdens down? Isn't it time to try something new? And what if it works? What if I'm actually able to be different or better or get rid of all of these fears? So it was the belief that there may be more to this. And so a leap of faith after that, and never looked back.
Wow. It's very beautiful and very clear, what you're saying there. And I just want to kind of poke in a little bit more in what was it? So even though, you started to see these things, and I love what you said, that I wanted you to meet you, and it's one thing to, like, I am holding that space for you, but when we can't see it ourselves,
Yeah.
When you're on the other side and you can't see what I see yet.
Mm.
What is it that had you then actually step beyond that, your fear that had been blocking you?
Thinking about it now, we talk an awful lot about our inner critic, because that has a very loud and persistent voice. And it's also very tempting to listen to that all the time. But also, peppered in amongst that, there is that inner wisdom. And I just feel that there was this inner voice going, come on, I'm here. It's time. And knowing that if I'm thinking about anybody else, I'm thinking that they have a beautiful soul. And I know, I had this, for all of the lack of confidence we might have, and for all the lack of confidence that I said I had, there was also this steely reserve of, God damn it, there's more. You are amazing. It was the tiniest voice, but I knew it. And I thought, I don't have the beautiful life and the beautiful husband and the beautiful children that I have by accident. That just didn't happen by accident. So either they're seeing something in me that I want to see in myself, but I'm too afraid to, or everybody's drank the Kool-Aid, and that was not possible. So I also felt a sense of, if I'm honest, obligation, and maybe that I was being disrespectful to everybody around me who was telling me that I was all of these amazing things, or who wasn't necessarily saying it. I mean, you'd love a whole entourage of people walking around telling you you're amazing all the time, but people genuinely believing in you and saying that you inspired them, whether that be as a leader or in work or in the community or in your family. And at some point, when people, you've had enough of that belief in you, you realize I'm actually being disrespectful by not seeing it for myself and not believing it myself. And why not? In fact, part of it is very boring. You think, it's so trite. Gosh, if I could just get over all of this, imagine what I could do. And is that possible? And we're very good at comparing ourselves to other people from a negative perspective.
Yeah.
But if you reframe that and you also do it the other way without wanting to judge other people, it's that beautiful, isn't it, Marianne Williamson poem that we were talking about, who are you not to be great?
Mm-hmm.
And that really struck a chord with me. And I thought, there are all of these millions of people out there who are living what I might perceive as the perfect life. And so therefore, I've written an algorithm or a formula in my head to say, well, if they have all those things and they're doing all those things, they must be better than me. So I could never do that.
Right.
Well, 2 and 2 make 4, but 4 can be made up by 3 plus 1 or 4 ones. There's lots of different ways that you can look at something. And I thought it was time to look at things differently.
Yeah. Wow. Sounds like it's been a really, the time has been due for that wake up.
Yeah.
Yes.
Definitely.
So, okay. So before you started the program, what were some of the things that you wanted? And then what did you actually get? Because sometimes what we think we want isn't what we actually get. And then what we actually get is more what we really, really, really want. So, yeah. So what was your experience?
So there's probably 2 parts to that. One of them was in terms of what I wanted. And I think we all have our own ways of processing and thinking. And for me, it's definitely verbal. So the great thing is about you, Leanne, is you've always been patient. So sometimes I don't fully know what I want until that moment when it's coming out. A little bit like this, you can prepare for everything, but when you're right in the moment, you might say something different. But certainly what I wanted, which is kind of funny, I was laughing about this morning. So my maiden name is Eileen Oliver, and my surname, obviously now with my husband, his name is Luke Free, is now Eileen Oliver Free. And the amusing thing when I reflect upon it is the one thing that I wanted when you said, what do you want from this program? I kept saying, I want to be free. Isn't that funny? I already was. So I'd already titled myself free. But I kept saying, I want to be free, you know, I want to be free to be me. I'm free from this burden. I'm free from judgment and all of those things. But that word free has so much attached to this. There's so much in there. And free to be released from a lot of the prejudices or judgments that I was also assuming that people were putting on me. And of course, the one who was putting the most judgment on me was myself. I mean, I'm not surrounded by paparazzi. Nobody's following me. I'm not all over Twitter or the news or anything. I'm not Lady Gaga. So nobody's actually really listening to me or judging me or caring about what I do 10 seconds after I do it, unless they're in my circle. You know, somebody in a whole different country doesn't know me, isn't thinking about me. So I realized that I needed to be free of my own criticism. But what was interesting, and to your point, the word transformational is a challenging word because, and even in preparation for today, I was thinking, oh my God, transformational, what's happened? I feel like as if I need to have done something amazing, you know, and really huge and really tangible. But actually that transformation can be a huge inside you. You know, and if the only person who ever feels that and sees it is you, well, that doesn't matter because you're with yourself the whole time. You're your own audience. But the interesting thing was, and we talk about this a lot throughout the program and in the work that we're doing now, is around wanting something and then either manifesting it or visualizing it and believing that it can happen. And one of the funny things was that classic case of be careful what you wish for because you might just get it. Was in relation to the work that I do now. So where I was in my previous role, I had been there for 4.5 years and loved it, but had started to really feel deja vu and that it was time to go. And I was walking down the street one day, and I'm a big believer in, you know, vision boards and visualization and poster goals and so on, but I hadn't done it for a long time. And I think one of the things I said to you, Leanne, is that I felt like I'd lost some passion or belief around that, and that my doctor had said to me before, I said, I don't seem to have the same energy and, you know, what's the term, chutzpah, or whatever it is. And she said, oh, that's just your age. That just happens.
Isn't that awful when it's just kind of woman. I know that's not to
but it's such a
something exactly right. And then we can actually, you know, just start to believe in that it's normal to not like to live a life that isn't completely fulfilled, you know, and there's a reason for it, right? It's the age, or it's, you know, right. Yeah. And so just if you are just joining us now in this interview with Eileen, I'm here with Eileen, we're talking about transformation, then just drop a line and say hello and just say where you're coming in from. Eileen is in New Zealand, I'm in Canada. And if you've got any comments or questions, we love to hear them. So we'll engage you in our conversation as well. So yeah, so coming back to your inner critic there, Eileen.
Yes. So I had thought, oh, you know, I just don't have the same energy. I don't know what's wrong with me. And is there something wrong with me, like physically, medically? And then she said, oh, that's age. You know, once you have kids and you're older, you just run out of energy. And I was so disappointed by that comment. But, you know, part of me went, oh, okay, then. Well, it's obviously a matter of fact. And it was really actually even very recently saying that to you. And your physical reaction to that was just like, oh, rubbish. And I was like, oh, thank God. But the other side of it too was because I had lost energy because I wasn't interested in it anymore. Actually, it's simpler. It's nothing to do with age. It's just that I had been there, I had done that. I wanted a new adventure. And so one of the things, and I remember distinctly walking down the road here in Wellington and saying to myself, oh, you know, I'd really like to work for a company this size in this area. So maybe, you know, less than 50 people in software, probably in the startup phase, but, you know, they're beyond being nervous about finances. So they've got good financial viability. You know, I've been managing people for so long. I actually don't want to manage anybody anymore. I just want to have my own role. And honestly, I was that specific in my head as I walked down the street. And then I went, well, where am I going to find that in Wellington? Because, you know, which is a limiting thought, number one, but also Wellington is very much a government public sector city. So we don't have as many corporates in that kind of sphere as we might have thought. So I thought, oh, and honest to God, that's where I work now. I mean, down to the letter. And the
Uh-huh.
funny thing is, down to the letter. And the
Uh-huh.
funny thing is that I was reflecting on this the other day. I said, so let me think about this. I said I wanted this. I went, yeah. Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. I got all of those. Now I have it. Do I want it? No. Is it sparking all the joy I thought it would? No, it's ticking the boxes, but I had forgotten a
Mm,
really important thing, and that was that I was really want to be passionate about it. But you know what's really valuable about these things is not only once you've got something, it's like we're far too harsh on ourselves. It's like drafting a picture. It's like
mm,
playing with an idea. You
yes.
know, you can get it wrong, and or you draw something, you go, that's not what I want. So
Mhm.
now that I know what I don't want, that helps me to know what I do want.
That's
So
right.
also, what can I take from this?
Yeah.
So rather
And
than
can I just
berating,
interrupt on
yeah,
that? Yeah, because what you're pointing to is so important because, we can often just keep ourselves stuck in wanting something and then, not getting it. We've got reasons for it. We don't believe it. Just like in the beginning, you shared about all these, like everyone else seeing these wonderful things and you didn't believe them about yourself. And so we can keep ourselves stuck in there, but you went beyond that. You're like, no, I'm going to, go out there and then there you are, you land that job that you wanted. It had everything that you wanted. And then you're like, oh, I'm not so sure if I want that. And that's opening up the next opportunity for you. But here's the thing though, is that if we keep relating with life as it is, that there's always somewhere to get to, that there's an end result, there's an end game, and that's all that life is about, and it's making sure that you get the thing that you want. I mean, that's just so not reality, is it? Like when you're really living life, we use that though as an excuse to not live life. It's like, okay, so what if I don't get that thing that I want, or I'm not up for that thing that I want, or I'm not enough, or and we've got all these limiting thoughts and all this fear that we hold back. And then we, and here you're sharing, that I broke through and I went beyond and reached for the thing, one of the things that I wanted, and I got it, and that's not what I want. And so people might be thinking, oh, well, why reach out in the first place anyway? And, might as well
yeah,
just,
well, yeah.
you
I was
know,
going to say the other thing that is fascinating, though, about all of that is that I said what I wanted and I got what I wanted. And then when I had it, I realized and am realizing that it's what I need. Because given the year that has been, actually, if I had been anywhere else, I wouldn't have had the same level of support and flexibility. And it has allowed me to now use it as a springboard for the next thing. And I agree with you. It would have also been, it kind of shows arrogance in a way that we assume that we know everything. And so I know what I want, I know what I need. Well, we spend our lives going, well, I want that. That doesn't mean that's good for you. So it does, for me, it caused some humility about, wow, I got exactly what I asked for and what I needed. So even though it might not give me everything that I think I want right now, actually it's allowed me to do a whole lot of things that I needed to do.
yes, that's wonderful. Can you also share, maybe more personally, what are some more of the, maybe something personal that you got from the program?
Well, I was thinking about this earlier on, and you'll laugh knowing about this because this was a really huge thing for me. So I have quite a quirky taste and love it, eclectic taste. And over the years have, bought really fabulous coats and, jewelry and all the rest. And I'm not a fashionista, I don't follow the trend. So I always tend to like something a little bit different. And I have this amazing hat that if you're into labels or hats or anything, that you may remember a fabulous milliner called Philip Tracy. And he did those amazing hats that were ships and all the rest. Anyway, really fabulous hat. My mum treated me to a beautiful hat 20 odd years ago. And it's still stunning. And I love the hat. My husband loves the hat. Everybody loves the hat. But did I wear the hat? Well, that was confronting. because I loved the hat and I loved all the things I wore. But when I really wore everything I loved, I got a lot of attention, and that was really uncomfortable. And of course, with attention comes my perception of judgment. So the first thing that we talked about was being free to be me, and then thinking about, well, what does that look like? And I had this vision of what I thought I would look like, or somebody would look like, who had total faith in themselves and confidence and loved themselves, and not loved themselves in an arrogant way, but in a really authentic way, and who were free from what anybody else thought. And I had a very clear vision in my head, and that was all encapsulated in the hat. And so we worked on, and you remember this, it became very amusing by the end. We worked on my getting to a point where I was brave enough to wear the hat. And everybody wanted me to wear the hat. My husband keeps saying, I love the hat. Why don't you wear it more often? Well, because as soon as you wear it, it's so striking that people often go, oh, wow. Or, oh, look at your hat. And so your inner critic goes, oh, it's negative, hide, conform, yada, yada. And so we got to the stage throughout the program where the whole team of us were all, cheering on about wearing the hat. Today I wore the hat. And here's a photograph of me in the lift wearing the hat. And, where else could I wear the hat? And it was really so much more than the hat, of course. It was wearing me and being me. And of course, it's tucked away now because it's been summer, and so it doesn't need to be, but it will be coming out again. And for me, it sparked every day thinking, okay, so if it's not the hat today, well, what's the thing today? And even today, I was like, I love these earrings. I've had them for so long. And these are the earrings. And playing with being me and trying to just not, waste so much time.
And really showing up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And being my own inspiration, love looking at me and going, God, if I saw that chick in the street, I'd be like, she rocks. She's cool. I want to hang out with her. I want some of that mojo.
So tell me so we can really get a sense of, like, we're right with you. Oh, and by the way, if you are right with us, talking to the audience now, if you're joining in, then just say hello and send a little comment. Please ask us any questions that you would like us to delve into. And so your hat. So coming back to that, we can get that, like that was a real invitation for you to come out, and and we can get that as you share it, like we're right there with you. Now, what was it like before? What would it have been like before, let's say?
So internally, or to other people?
No, internally.
Playing small. And I don't mean that as in that's so matter of fact. It's so insidious. It comes in lots of different ways. So it would be the desire I would have the desire to want to wear the hat or to say something. And then the voice, no, don't. We don't make a fuss. We don't draw attention to ourselves. And so I would pull back. And then when I pushed beyond that, I would have this whole feeling of imposter syndrome. So if anybody said anything, I would suddenly take the hat off, or I'd make fun of it, or I'd try to justify it, or something. Like suddenly it became a thing. It didn't need to be a thing.
Right.
So there was that whole, I want to show that I'm here, and I look back, years and years ago, and I was very outgoing. And very cha all the time, and too much so I was compensating.
Yes.
And then I kind of went the other way, and then started to be quieter and a bit more serious, or had to be the funny one, or had to be something, as opposed to just being myself.
Was there before the program, was this kind of like this conflict inside of wanting to show up and be this wonderful being that you could feel inside, and then on the other hand, no, pull back and don't, and it's a real shameful thing? Was it kind of like that conflict inside?
Absolutely. There was a tension, an inner tension all the time, and a push-pull, and feeling as if you have two parts of yourself. When actually, if you reframe that, then you can say, well, which is the greater part of yourself, or is one just putting on a cloak? you know,
Yes.
of shame or guilt. And if I got rid of that, what would that look like?
Mm.
So you can visualize in lots of different ways, but certainly there was always this, you know, as you talk about this radio of stuff you don't even hear really. It's white noise and distraction. It's a total distraction from what you could be doing with your amazing life.
It's constantly playing in the background, and when you listen to it, and let it guide you, that's, you keep
Yeah.
yourself small. And yeah.
And
Mm.
I think probably one of the biggest points before for me, just thinking about it now, actually, a really poignant moment was when I had my daughter, because it's like you being born again. And I don't mean that in a religious sense or anything like that. I just mean that you suddenly see what it looks like to have a pure human being who is born without any of that rubbish, that is a free spirit, is full of love. And the sense of not only wanting to protect that, but realizing that I am that too. And all of this stuff that we put on ourselves, I was like, I don't want that for her. I don't want her to learn that from me. And in order for her not to learn it from me, I have to deal with it. So I have to do that for myself. That
Mm.
was really powerful.
Yes. Yeah. Wow. It's beautiful. And is there anything else you can share just around your relationship, maybe with your children or your husband, that you've, that from the work of transformation, that where things have shifted, even if it's just tiny?
Yeah. Well, my husband or my children are probably sick of me now, constantly saying, "You do know that you're really, you're enough. You're really wonderful." And with my daughter, every night we have it, and there's the thing on the doorway, a note that I have that says, "You are brave, you are smart, you're strong, you're important. I love you." And every night I say to my daughter, "And what are you?" She says, "I'm brave, smart, strong, important." And I say, "And what else? What else could there be? And what would you like to dream about tonight?" So there's some of the things. But um, one of the things I try to do constantly, and actually, when you said about with my husband, I thought, oh well, no, I've been with him since I was 19. He knows me really well, and actually, he's always seen my higher self. Actually, he's always seen a better version of me that I didn't see. So he's always been my biggest cheerleader. But and the funny thing is, though, that through this, what I've noticed is an easier conversation, because one of the areas that I'm still working on, as we all do, is standing up for yourself, advocating for yourself. And often what I would do is I would think to myself, so say for example, doing this program, and I think this is really relevant but really interesting too, is that when I want to do this program, one of my initial obstacles that I said to you is, oh, I don't have the money for that. And that's a very tangible and very easy but relevant conversation or excuse people might think they had. But when I think about it, what I was fearful of was that saying that I wanted to do the program and that had a financial value attached to it meant that I had to say that I was worth that money. And that I had to say to my husband, because obviously with joint accounts and everything, I want to do this program. It's worth this amount of money, and that would he think that I was worth that? Now I already know that, but so this was an internal argument that had nothing to do with him, but I had already made up my mind that it was too much to ask of him. It was too much to ask of us, and that I wasn't. I was worth it, but I wasn't really worth it. And so I had a whole conversation and decision made without his involvement. And when I had the conversation with him, he went, absolutely, you're worth it. If you think this is valuable and you think it's going to help you and it's what you really want to do, absolutely. And also, thank you for talking to me about it. I really, the fact that you respected me enough to talk to me about it. And so it's changed the conversation. And now he also knows he can talk to me about things that he wants to do. And that does hold me to account too, so that I don't criticize that. But that was a really interesting internal conversation that about worth.
It's beautiful. Yes. Oh, but we sometimes don't realize the partnership and the support, that our partners really do have for us. And that it really is, it's a matter of us standing up for ourselves first.
Yeah.
And then being in communication about that. Because, I mean, that's beautiful what you're sharing. Yeah. So, okay, I want to ask you then two more questions I'm thinking about. One is, if we talk about transformation as a thing, as a bunch of tools or this doesn't even say it completely, but what have you learned about transformation?
That it's ever evolving.
Mm.
I think the challenge can be, oh, no, the temptation. The temptation can be to feel that we're transformed, we're done, it's it, I'm fixed forever. You know, it's like when you think, when I lose weight, that's it, I never have to think about food ever again. I'm just going to be fabulous.
Oh, come on, I want to.
We'll just take that pill and life is better. You know, we have been tricked through advertising and through many different areas to believe that there is a silver bullet. And actually, not only is there not a silver bullet, but why would there be? How ridiculous would that be, and how boring? I mean, some of the most interesting people in your lives are really old and they have had amazing experiences. And if they had not continued to evolve, then you wouldn't have seen the whole tapestry of their lives and the whole tapestry of themselves.
Yes.
Some people don't find out. I mean, who I was at 20 is completely who I am, different to who I am now at 47. But that's there. So
yeah, that's right.
You want people to evolve.
Yes, it's like when you said, you saw all these, the people in your life saying wonderful things about you, and you decided to listen because up to that point you hadn't been. And then when you started to step into that, the moment we take one step beyond where we are, we see things we hadn't seen before. Like you can even imagine, walking in the forest or, on a path. And, when you take another step forward, it's like the horizon changes a little bit. You see a little bit more, you see a few more trees, you see, so life becomes, life becomes different. So just with each and every step we make, there's new opportunities that open up and new things that we see. So at what point, I mean, you can even think it doesn't even make sense. Like, at what point am I going to say, okay, I'm done? Right? I mean, that would be the time when we're, leaving this physical body. But
well, if you think about the human race, at what point can we say, oh yeah, we're evolved now?
We've got a little ways to go on that one.
I keep saying, just because I'm grown up doesn't mean I'm evolved.
Gandhi said it well. It was something about he was asked, what did he think about Western civilization? He said, I think that'll be a good idea. Yeah. So then in knowing that transformation is forever evolving and it's not a place you arrive at, then when transformation doesn't work, what isn't working about it?
So, two parts that I guess my initial thing is transformation always works on some level, even if you can't see it. Even if the only learning from it is that you're not committed. So it will show something. So I know, and one of the interesting things, and we talked about it a little bit, but I just was reading something during the week, is this myth that we have around discipline, self-discipline. And you and I worked on that quite a lot, because I can be quite the taskmaster to myself. And, I'm always on my own back, or used to be always on my own back. And, I had worked for a period of time in debt collection. So I was like, you got to do this. You got to get up every morning. You got da-da-da-da-da-da. I mean, who wants anybody to talk to them like that?
I know, it's not very fun, is it?
No, it's horrible. I mean, it's abusive. It's abusive. And that's you doing that to yourself. And the interesting thing is, it's because it's built on the belief that self-discipline is the key. Well, that's not the key at all. In fact, you'd have to argue that there's no such thing as self-discipline. If you're really passionate about doing something, or you get something from it, then you do it again and again and again. And that can either be negative or it can be positive. But by virtue of engaging in something fully, then there will be an outcome. And so if you choose to engage to develop yourself better, and so from a positive perspective, the more that you do it, there's definitely transformation. And if you're not seeing what you perceive as being transformation, you need to pause and really ask yourself, what's that about? And your talk and through the mastermind program, we're working on non-negotiables, and being 100% committed to yourself. And you can obviously explain that further to people, but the reality is that in my head is not about self-discipline. It's about absolutely engaging with, I want this for me. I want to show up for myself. I want an audience with myself. And it's really understanding your own value. But more than anything else, when it's non-negotiable, it just stops any argument. It stops any discussion. It's like that moment, when your parent says to you, that is it. It's happening. End of conversation. Non-negotiable is like that, but in a positive way. So we're doing this for you. End of conversation. That's it. And so if you're not getting that transformation, then that's important to stop and talk to you, I'd suggest.
Well, let's just talk briefly about that then. And so when transformation isn't working, I like what you said. Firstly is just have a look at what you're expecting. Because most likely what it could be is you're expecting transformation in a particular area of your life to look a particular way. And most likely, if it's not looking the way you want it to, then you're using old strategies to get there, like manipulation, force, strategizing, that kind of thing. We already know how to do that. And, I don't know about you, but I've tried, a lot of times in my life trying to change people. And, it just doesn't go very well. So, we're usually using old strategies. And also have an expectation of what it should look like and how it should go. So that's one thing is, that will not have transformation work. And then the other thing is actually doing the work. And you mentioned the non-negotiable. So transformation always works, and you just got to do the work. You see, because what has transformation not work is when we keep listening to the habitual patterns of thought in our head that keep us repeating the same things. And so transformation is actually when we create new areas of thinking in our brain. And so we start to see things new. We even have new brain connections and networks that, open up and that make connection. It's like, oh, we see something we hadn't seen before. That's transformation. And you start making new choices in that transformation. Now, if you don't practice that transformation, then what happens is the brain just naturally prunes away all those new connections that you've made. So that's how come too. It's like we can't decide it's a done deal. You got to practice it now. You got to bring it into your life. And the more you practice it, then you are building and creating habits of thinking that are new, that are more resourceful. And sure, there might be that tug to, think those old thoughts or, but that's just breaking old habits. And it's a good thing that we all know how to do that. So the non-negotiable, that's when we, and it's got to be something that you choose yourself. So it's not something that somebody can make non-negotiable to you, because then you hold yourself accountable to somebody else. When you make something non-negotiable, it can only work when you take it on yourself and you're making your relationship with yourself. You're accountable to yourself. And so you're non-negotiable to yourself. And in that, you just simply do the work, do the work, and,
That's right.
and get the power in that. Yeah. So that's the practicing those new brain cells.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, Eileen, this has been such a pleasure in interviewing you today. And just as we're wrapping up here, I want to ask you, is there anything else that you would like to say about the program, or that I haven't asked you yet?
Yes. Yes. I'm looking at my notes because I had thought about that. So what I'd written down was, my message to anybody watching this is that no matter what your circumstances are, you're worth the time, you're worth the money, you're worth the work that it takes. And it's the most important investment you'll ever make in yourself. We're very good at doing things like, whitening our teeth, or buying the best shampoo, or buying the best carpet for the room, or whatever it is, and all these external things. And we spend money on those things, our time and energy. But actually, this is really important work, and everything flows from it. And you do need to make that commitment to yourself. If you're watching this, it's because you already have an inner voice that's calling to you. It's like a siren song, saying, come with us. There's more to it. There's more to you. And you can actually overcome all of those obstacles that you think are in front of you. And the great thing about you, Leanne's course, is the amount of times we've had those conversations. And you've always done it in a very compassionate way. You've never been disappointed. You've never said, well, that's just an excuse, or come on, Eileen, which of course is a famous song that everybody tends, that even came out of myself by accident. But you never did that. And actually, because of that, it's everything that we talk about in the program is having that kind of guardian and inner wisdom that says, it's safe. It's safe to do it. And the collection of women, when I did the program, I did it with you one-on-one. And then I went into the mastermind program. And actually, I have really enjoyed it. And I was a bit scared about being with other women, because I thought, well, other women are marvelous, but they can be a bit scary too. But the mastermind program has been really brilliant, because it's allowed me to hear your voice through other people, and my own voice through other people, and everybody's going through it. So there's a synergy and an understanding. So if you ever thought, is this the time to do something for yourself? Well, it is. So that's my message to you.
Awesome. And yeah, I as you were sharing, I wanted to ask you, now, because we didn't get to talk about that, but now in your life, how has the program impacted now, in a bigger sense, your life? Like, what are you creating?
Yeah. Well, there's two parts to that. One of that is a fundamental shift internally. And I don't know that anybody else may or may not see that, but I know that it's a growing confidence, and it's a whole lot of limiting thoughts that now I look and I think, rather than being critical of them, I look at them and go, okay, you're here because I'm playing bigger. You're here because you're afraid of something. So let me give you my attention. So I'll address that. And it's okay. So much more compassionate. And that's allowed me to not have all that noise in my head. So that's been an internal thing. And there's obviously more to that, but that's a fundamental shift internally. The other thing has been that we have made the decision to move to Ireland. And we've been in New Zealand for 18 years and have loved it here. And my husband's Irish. And I'm very honest about saying that when we left Ireland, really it was because my inner wisdom was going, I need to escape. I need to escape all of these obligations and fears. And, there was definitely, when I look back now, we were escaping as well as looking for adventure. And what's amusing about this decision to move to Ireland, obviously it's come up because of circumstances around the world, and realizing we want to be in Ireland to be with family now as they're older and so on. But that would have in the past never have been an option, because I would have been too afraid that I was going backwards. And I don't mean backwards from a lifestyle perspective. I mean backwards to my old frightened self, and that I would be the same person. And obviously we've talked about that. But now instead, it's much more about why we want to go, and knowing that if those fears come up, and there will be times where I'll be tested on that, I have so much more understanding and better resources to know how to deal with that. And also, I've changed. That's a long time ago, 18 years. So I couldn't go backwards. It's not possible. We can't go back in time. So actually reframing that has been really interesting, and working with the children about what that looks like, and a big adventure. But the biggest thing, which I think comes from this, and it was something that one of my girlfriends said to me last week, she said, "How are you feeling about it?" And I said, "Great." And she said, "Yeah, you seem really calm." I mean, she said, "You're going, in June. You seem really calm about this." And I said, "Because I trust that everything will work out just the way we want it to, and that it needs to." So hold on to the vision, being very clear about what we want from our life, really being specific. And I do meditation every day about how I see my life over there, and what it's going to be like, and who I'm going to be hanging out with, and who I am, and so on. But I'm letting go of the fear around it. I'm letting go of, and it came up even yesterday, people going, "Are you crazy? You're in New Zealand, you're in the only place in the world that doesn't have COVID, and why are you going back there?" And fear, 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 fear. And I could feel a little bit of that starting to, and then I went, but I know something they don't. I know it's going to be all okay, because I have absolute trust in the vision. And I'm just letting go of all of the rest of the stuff, because I have the confidence that my inner wisdom is there and will make the right choices.
Wow. Now
Yeah.
that is a new Eileen. I mean, that's the real Eileen, right?
Yeah.
Just a big difference from like a year ago, right?
And in the past, I would have been worried about it and babbling about it, and that sounds manic, but I wouldn't have externally done that too much. But in my head, I would have been thinking, what if this happens? Well, then we can do this. And I would have had plan A, B, C, D. I barely have plan A. I just have, the dream is this, and I trust the universe. Everything else will fall into place exactly as it needs to. And it's so liberating.
Wow. Eileen, thank you. Thank you for sharing your life, your experiences, your wisdom with us, your messages. Thank you. Thank you for your time. And
you're very welcome.
And for the people who are here, thank you for listening, for being with us, for coming on this journey as we've explored this. Please comment any questions you've got. Love to know that you're here. And all right, well, with that, then I just imagine I'm giving you a big, big hug. Around the
world. Thank you, everyone, for your time as well. Honestly, ask me anything. It's been lovely as ever.
Awesome. Thank you.